Hey there, coaches. I'm Rich Prado, owner of Play in School and host of Travel Ball Talk, where I talk to travel ball coaches from the best organizations about the current and future state of travel baseball. Today's conversation features Ryan Serena of Rogue Baseball Performance, which is located just outside of Denver, Colorado. We discuss a very important topic in today's environment: contingency plans. I hope you enjoy this episode of Travel Ball Talk. All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. Today's guest hails from the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. We have Ryan Serena on the call from Rogue Baseball. So Ryan and his brother Jordan run and own Rogue Baseball out in Colorado. And just quick story, I was supposed to visit with Ryan in October. And we were just kind of reminiscing. The Denver area got absolutely hammered with an early snowstorm. The day I was flying into Denver, the roads were a mess, and I was going north. Their facility is south, and it made getting to their facility not an option. So we never got to meet in person. But Ryan, I appreciate you coming on the call with me today. How you doing, man?
Good, Rich. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to talking shop a little bit and catching up. It's been a while since we talked. So.
You got it. I follow you and I follow your brother on Twitter, and he tweeted out a thing that was sort of right in line with some of the things I've been saying, and from our conversation before we hit record, it sounds like it was a pretty big topic of discussion between you and him just this week. And so we're going to probably spend some time talking about this. If you're listening to this in the future, just in case, 10 years from now, somebody pops in this podcast. Today's May 7th, 2020. We're still, pretty much most of the country is still staying at home due to the coronavirus. 2020, summer 2020 baseball is sort of in limbo right now. Is that a fair way of saying it, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely. It's when it first started, I was pretty optimistic about getting things going as normal and things opening back up. But it's a long process, so it's kind of a daily change and daily change of mindset on what the steps are going to be for this summer and how we need to make that look and make it still a good summer for our guys. I know they're all itching to be back out there, so.
Yeah, and that's that phrase, still a good summer for your guys. We're gonna talk about that because, what does that mean? What does that look like? And so let me just read verbatim what your brother Jordan tweeted out yesterday. It was just yesterday. He tweeted this out, and he says, "We'll get to see who's good at prioritizing player development if games get canceled this summer. Can't just roll out the balls 30 minutes before the game and pretend you're getting better this year." And he's right. He's right. So I added on top of that that this is a really interesting topic. Will some organizations simply refund and shut down if all the events are banged? Will some parents simply request a refund? Development, recruiting, communication, etc. will all continue with or without the tournaments and showcases. And it's like, and I touched on something there that some of the parents just might say, "Hey, we're good. Listen, if my kid can't play, 6 events on college fields this summer, that's right. That's really what we wanted, right? So we're good. We'll just do our own thing."
Right.
But you guys focusing on the topic of development really want to provide kind of a different a different angle in the event that these 6 or 7 or 8 weekends get canceled. All right, let's just jump into it. You and your brother talked contingency plans. Let's I'd love to hear kind of if we were a fly on the wall in that meeting. What are some of the thoughts?
Yeah, so I think to start, it takes me right back to how we approach things from the get-go without extenuating circumstances, that's when people are interested in us, or if we are talking to a kid and their family, we very much focus on the development aspects from the start. Obviously, playing the game is a big part of the development process. The way we've got it tiered this summer, we've got 3 teams for the first time. We've had 2 for the last couple summers. So the way we do it, we call it varsity, JV, and underclass, just based on our numbers. We don't have enough guys to do it class by class, so we treat it more of a high school system. So the varsity team is going to have different needs than our underclass team. When you're a freshman or sophomore, going and getting exposure and playing, out of town 5 out of 8 weekends is not a huge priority. It's development is the main key for those guys anyways. Mm-hmm. As we go up the ladder, to the JV group, they're going to do a little bit more traveling and a little bit more of those things, but still for them developing on the practice side and in the weight room is key. And then using the games as means to help that development along, see what you do well in competition, et cetera, et cetera. Our varsity group is the one where we're like, okay, we're going to seek out events that are, really strong, where you can get in front of coaches, all those type of things. But even with that group, we're not going to sit there and say, hey, yeah, we're just trying to get exposure. We're just going to go and play 60 games. I'm looking at kind of our setup for all 3 of our teams, and each team goes through the same practice setting, the same training schedule in the weight room, regardless of if they're a senior or junior, freshman or sophomore. So long story short, us focusing on that from the beginning, I think all of our parents and our kids have that expectation that it's not all about playing tournaments on college fields. Like you said, it's about being in the gym. It's about having good individualized focused training. And that's something that we can still provide to them regardless of whether or not we're playing games on the weekends. So,
if you're tuning in, you're unfamiliar with Jordan or Ryan, Serena, you can find them with a quick Twitter search, and then click on the link over to roguebaseballperformance.com to learn more information about them. But I tell you what, from a travel ball standpoint, I'm not sure I've ever heard anybody label it quite like that. Varsity, JV, and underclass. But it's
definitely different.
It is it's exactly what it is in reality, right?
And we wanted to foster that, because we coach in the high school setting as well at Chaparral High School, where we actually grew up. And when you're in a program like that, there's some meaning behind making the varsity team. There's some meaning behind working your way up the levels. And that's something that we saw in travel ball. It's like, I'm just on this team this summer and then this team this summer. And, so we're more interested in kind of developing a program setting where you got to earn your way up this ladder. And when you do, then it's time to start thinking about the next level. And so that's kind of been our approach.
Yeah, no, I actually like that quite a bit. So, with the program's focus on these 3 teams this summer is always sort of based in development. You talked about you and your brother had a conversation on contingency plans. What were some of the things that were going around your head as far as, if this happens, we do this. If we're limited in this way or restricted in this way, what were some of the sort of these backup plans? Everybody's plan A is, hey, I hope we get to play in these tournaments, and maybe that starts June 1st, maybe that starts June 15th, maybe that starts July 1. We don't know.
Right.
But in the meantime, how will you continue to help these ball players? What are some of the the thought processes right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, working backwards and starting with the tournaments, like you said, it's what can we do to replace games on the field? If we're not able to play, nobody's able to play. So we immediately went to what can we do inside our own facility to somewhat mimic playing a game. We're fortunate. We moved into a new facility about a year ago, and so we can go full length live at bats. We can open our cage up to where it's 30 feet by 70 feet, and it's a nice open feel. So that was kind of the first thing we hit on was let's set up some sort of live at bat competition. Dylan Moritz, who's our pitching coordinator, also was in on this conversation and kind of brought that up as well. So what we went to was let's break each of our teams into 2 teams so that we've got 6 groups total. And on the weekends, we can take varsity group 1, the pitchers, against varsity group 2's hitters, and then flip-flop that, varsity group 2's pitchers versus varsity group 1's pitchers, and create some sort of point system game setup, to give them that feel, much like we did this winter when we were inside. We're lucky in 2020 we've got the technology. We've got Rapsodo on both the pitching and the hitting side, so if somebody makes contact, we can tell what happened without, making it up. We've got blast motion that we use with the guys on the swing side, so we can track every swing that they're taking in a live at bat. So in some ways, Rich, it's kind of funny being relegated inside and doing live at bats. From the data standpoint, we're actually going to get more information about our guys in live at bats.
Yeah, that's interesting because most of these fields aren't set up with the TrackMans or whatever the latest is right now.
Right.
Right. And there's that's a lot of feedback and a lot of data collection opportunities. It's just hard to you're not going to have that on some weekend event. So, now some are collecting that, but most aren't. Most
sure.
Aren't.
Sure. And it's definitely not a perfect system where we're huge believers in you're playing the game of baseball, running the bases, hustling out on the field, all the little things that go into actually playing the game. That's part of what we teach and what we focus on.
Yeah.
So you're going to lose that no matter what, but we're, just on the weekend game side, trying to flip the script and be like, okay, well, if we can't do those things yet, what can we do in place of them to still give you value? So,
and you just hit on the most important word is the value piece. Is how will organizations continue to provide value for these families throughout this situation, especially if some events begin to get canceled or adjusted. It's there's a lot, right or wrong, there's a lot of organizations that what they basically do is what your brother described in that tweet, where it's what you've paid for is there's these 6 events, and they're good events, but what the coach basically does is he rolls in and puts together a lineup, and then there's a game. That's not terribly complicated. And that's what the parent. That's in some ways that's what the parent wanted, right? They sort of knew that going into it. But if that gets disrupted, will the parents feel like they got the value for whatever they paid? Right. Like, and that's right, because money is money. Money is money, and if you're spending money, you expect something in return.
Right. Well, and from our end too, it's like. We've got to operate a business, and so we at the same time, we don't want to take our whole summer and give it back, like you kind of alluded to, and say, well, we can't play, so we're just not going to do a summer. Like, that's just not going to work for us. So that's where finding a way to provide that value for the kids and for their families, and still, you know, and still do what we need to do from a facility standpoint. That's kind of the key, and that's kind of the reality. You know, we explored some things. For example, if we do live at bat stuff, we're not going to have parents in there watching. We just can't do it with regulations that are in place. And
right.
We're being pretty stingent on trying to keep groups less than 10 and all the things that the government here in Colorado is mandating. So, you know, we explored, let's turn Game Changer on and let's put everybody in the lineup, and
I like it.
Let's have the pitchers throw. And so that way mom and dad can see, okay, you know, Billy's on there, he's pitching. Oh, he just struck somebody out, or Johnny just got a hit. You know, and trying to treat it like these at bats and these innings matter, and you're competing, and you know, these are going on your summer season stats, so take it seriously. So it works in both ways, where the parents feel like this is something that they're taking seriously. They're not just rolling in and throwing BP for 2 hours. And obviously the kids are getting value in a live situation.
You know, despite that, I think there will be some parents, probably the minority, probably a small percentage, that simply say, hey, you know, we're good because we really just wanted this summer with these 6 events at these cool college fields, and hopefully there were some college coaches there. And since that's not happening, we're going to go do something else, right? It'll be a different type of summer, and you know, maybe we'll come in and take a lesson with you, but we're gonna we'll pass on the team portion of it, which will be that'll be a shame if that happens too much. And I don't anticipate a lot of that, but you know, the reality is so much of the summer travel ball component has turned into the showcase focused world that it sounds bad to say, but it's almost like some of the kids and some of the parents maybe put less emphasis on the development and getting better, and too much emphasis on the showcase and exposure piece, which is funny, because that's the easiest part right now. I mean, even in just shutdown, even with the world shutdown, it's still easy to have college coaches, you know, dial in and look at video. That's right. It's not complicated.
Well, and that's where, you know, like we kind of said before, it goes back to, what are you selling your people on, you know? Right. And looking back, you know, we never did it assuming that we were going to get shut down for 3 months. You know, we did it because we felt it was the right thing to do, and focus on development first, and those other things are part of it. But, you know, if you're a club or somebody that's saying, hey, exposure, games, you know, and that gets taken away from you, that's going to leave those parents in a spot where, like, well, we're not getting any of that. You know, so we're fortunate, and we feel really good about how we market what we do to people from the get-go, because, hey, like you said in your tweet, Rich, this doesn't change. You know, development doesn't stop.
Right.
It adjusts for sure, but we can still do that, and then, you know, fill in where there's gaps, and do our best to try and supplement what we're doing. So
now, as we mentioned, you're in Colorado, and it's May 7th. I believe that Colorado is beginning to open, if not in some limited form already, isn't it?
Yeah, so the governor lifted the stay-at-home order on the 27th of April, but Arapahoe County, where our facility is located, stayed on it until tomorrow, the 8th. So we're actually going to open up, you know, to small groups on Saturday morning.
What small group? What does that mean? What does that sound? What does that look like in practice?
Yeah, so this isn't quite to our summer stuff yet. This is just, you know, we do group hitting. Jordan actually runs our group hitting, which is mainly high school guys. throughout the year. Some of those guys play for us. Some of those guys play elsewhere. And then Dylan, our pitching coordinator, heads up the throwing program, which is also a year-round setup. So,
will you? But what I mean is, will you be limited in Arapahoe to 10 people in the facility, 15 people?
Sorry, Rich. 10 is the number that they've given us. So, we're partnered with a couple other companies, Push Performance, who runs the strength and conditioning, and High Pro Hitting. So we're trying to figure out, does that mean 10 people between our three companies that are in the building? Can we, we're going to go with the assumption that it's 10 per section and try and keep those guys kind of separated so that everybody's not milling about.
How many square feet is this place?
9,000.
Yeah.
About just slightly under.
9,000 is about, that's about 10 restaurants. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's pretty roomy. We've got high ceilings, so it feels very big and open. The good thing is we've got 3 different entrances. So if you're coming to work out at Rogue, you're coming in that door. If you're going to Push, you're going in the front door. So we're gonna be vigilant on how we open up, and we're gonna do things the right way.
Wait, tell me the third. So it's you guys. It's the Push, which is the strength and conditioning. What was the third group in there again?
High Pro Hitting, which is Chris Dunn. He just works with hitters.
Interesting.
But
he's not Rogue.
No, so he and I actually started Rogue together. He had left to Florida and came back and started his own deal.
Interesting. So what's he have, like a cage or two?
Yeah, he's got his area is 30 by 50, whereas ours is 30 by 70. So just a slightly smaller space than ours. Okay. But
cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's, having been in there a little bit this week and trying to get things ready to go, and you don't realize how many things you touch, and you just kind of move freely. So it's going to be mentally exhausting trying to make sure that we're keeping things, as they should be. But it's the right thing to do for the kids and for their families and all that good stuff.
Yeah, you don't realize how much you touched throughout a day, do you? Can you even get your hands on enough cleaning supplies out there to just Lysol the whole place down at the end of the day, or what's the thought process? Are you hiring out to cleaning crews, or what's that all about?
No, we haven't gone that far. We've been kind of stockpiling Lysol wipes, and we disinfect our turf on a regular basis. The netting, we can spray down with disinfectant, wiping down the surfaces, whether that's L screens, pitching machines. Baseballs is going to be the tricky one. There's been a couple concerns about how to sterilize the baseballs since we're touching those all the time.
Has anybody ever in the history of the world caught a virus by touching a baseball? That's what I want to know.
Honestly, I don't know, Rich.
I don't know either.
It's all brand new territory, so I guess we'll find out.
But it's not, because viruses have been around since the dawn of time. Like, has anybody ever caught anything from touching a base? I don't know. It's not like you. I mean, maybe. It seems unlikely, but
sure.
What are you going to do? You can't.
Yeah.
You can't dump them in Clorox.
Right.
You can't. Right. I mean, you stick them in the oven. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. Hopefully, with any luck, we'll look back on this in 6 months and go, "Whew, that was wild." I'm glad we don't have to. I'm glad we're not worrying about that right now.
No doubt. Yeah, and we're gonna probably have the guys wear masks as well. That's the thing. You go in there, it's very easy to just feel like, hey, it's business as usual.
Right.
But if we slap a mask on their face, we actually ordered up some custom ones with our logo on it just for fun. Mm-hmm. So if we throw a mask on their face, they're probably gonna hate it, but at least they know, hey, it's not business as usual. I gotta still, do things the right way, and we, as much as we can do. And we've encouraged people that are sick or don't feel comfortable, hey, don't come in yet, and we're not going to hold that against you, obviously. And but at the same time, we've got to get back going, and there's a lot of people that want to do that. So
yeah. Now, heading into late summer, hopefully we can get back on the field, and
right.
Hopefully the fall is baseball as normal. What are some of the thoughts going through your head as far as late summer and moving into the fall? I don't know if anybody's talking out there. What are y'all hearing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so right now it's looking like the first half of the summer is where we're going to be really limited on getting out on the field. So that's where we've come up with some plans to run everything indoors. The second half of the summer, we're hoping we can kind of flip back to our plan A, which was being out on, we use Chaparral High School's field for our practices in the summer. So being out there, if the school district allows for it, and then also being in our facility and in the weight room, and then obviously playing games on the weekends. The local games are dependent on the high school fields being usable. So, that's what we're hoping for the second half of the summer. Like you said, into the fall, we're right now kind of planning as, business as usual. It may change with what happens with schools. We've heard that maybe schools aren't going to open up, in the early fall, and kids will stay online. So, that'll open us up to be able to do some different things. And
I just threw up in my mouth a little bit, by the way. Do you have kids?
I don't. No.
Dude, if they don't open the schools on time, we're gonna have issues.
Yeah.
I'm like not.
I forget, Rich. Do you have kids?
I have a 4-year-old. Listen, again, Montana went back to school yesterday, and I looked at my wife and said, "Let's move to Montana, enroll him in school, and stay out there until school starts in September in Virginia."
Yeah, no doubt.
It's when you get me, God, the idea of one day more of this homeschool extended spring, never-ending spring break 2020 is what I've sort of been calling it. It is just unbelievable.
Sure.
Is there any? I'm looking at the rosters. By the way, I see some Valor Christian. Props to Keith Wall. I believe he's the head coach out there. He's been on the podcast. If you guys don't know Keith, he's a great guy. You can find his stuff playinschool.com/wall. That's WHAL. Great dude. Great conversation. But I see you've got some of their guys. You got some public school guys and private school guys. Do you anticipate there being any difference in access to fields between the public schools versus the private schools? What I'm getting at is, do you think the private schools might be a little more open about, hey, come on, do your thing, or not necessarily?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I actually reached out to Keith first, knowing that Valor's a private school and they don't have a school district, to go through, and
right.
It's a little bit shorter process. So as you would expect, Keith was really, willing to help and wanted to, try and see what he could do. He actually just messaged me this morning that they're probably not going to allow any spring sports stuff to go on. No baseball camps, no, any of that stuff at Valor. I hope I'm not out of line saying that. But so that was our first thought, was to try and figure that part out, knowing that school districts are going to affect bigger bunches of schools.
Yes. Yes.
We reached out to others that have fields that are not school district fields, just to see if we could rent some time, for our practice stuff. As expected, those guys are all going to get out there and fill up their time, and there'll be a lot going on in a shorter amount of time. So, we're right now we're gonna make use of our facility. Dove Valley Park is right down the street, which is a public park, so we're gonna jump out there and
that was going to be my next guess, was that that Parks and Recs might be easier to get access to than a high school. The fields aren't typically as nice, but at least they're fields, right? Because part of this thing is they want to, if you're going to be outside in a wide open area, in a Parks and Rec setting.
Sure.
So that could be, you might want to call around to a few Parks and Recs places, even with those. He might be a skin infield, but you know what? You can still get out there and do something.
Yeah, well, and we were, the park I'm referencing is just, there's a couple of ball fields there, but if we can just get out in a big, wide open grass area, we can do some base running stuff. We can throw long toss. We can do some infield, throwing work. There's a lot of stuff that we can do in those wide open spaces that doesn't require, a perfectly groomed infield, so to speak. So I think at this point we'll take what we can get, and we're going to try and find our way in where we can. And at the same time, if that doesn't work out for whatever reason, we feel confident in what we can provide those guys in the facility as well.
Yeah, so. Continuing to provide value within your four walls is going to be the kind of your new plan A. One of the things I noticed right off the bat when I was navigating through your website was I found where the teams are. I saw varsity, JV, and underclass like we talked about earlier. I click on one of those. I find the roster. Boom, hyperlink straight from the player over to their sports recruits page. So and this is what I've been kind of preaching from the beginning, is that communication is not canceled. Marketing of players is not canceled. Recruiting is not canceled. And so that really that's a nice feather in your cap. And it made me really happy to see that you guys are leveraging sports recruits. So it doesn't, I like those guys, and I've talked with the founder of Sports Recruits, and they're great dudes based up in New York City, and whether it's them or whether it's one of their competitors, it's time for organizations to think about how they're going to up their communication capabilities, and leveraging a platform like that is sort of a slam dunk. It's an easy move.
Definitely, and I got to shout out Dylan Moritz, who I mentioned before is our pitching coordinator, but he also heads up the recruiting side of things. Creating the videos for the guys, getting them uploaded onto YouTube, getting them to set up their sports recruits. When we are traveling for tournaments, if we've got a list of who's going to be there, encouraging them to reach out, us reaching out ourselves. So he does a great job of facilitating that, and that hasn't changed this spring, in preparation for the summer, making sure that the guys have their own video to get it up there. If we need to get their video, we're putting plans in place to get that as we get back going. So there's a ton of value that those guys on sports recruits can still get, just from live at bats in the gym or throwing bullpens or whatever the case may be. So that doesn't change, like you said.
Yeah, I'll give a shout out. Matt Wheeler is the founder. Matt's actually a lacrosse guy, but he's got a top-notch baseball guy who heads up that portion of their business. His name is Patrick McEnany. I think I said his last name right. Pat's a UVA guy. Pitched at UVA, I believe. Okay. So they got a great baseball guy who's heading up that division for sports recruits. And so if you're looking to just have a conversation, I'll be happy to put anybody who's listening in touch with Pat. You can just DM me or text me, and I'll put you in touch, or just reach out to them cold. But I work with a bunch of organizations who do film with us, who use sports recruits, and they load up all our film right on the platform. It's easy to do. So good on you, man, because there might not be any games as we know it in the next few weeks, but that doesn't mean college coaches aren't looking at swings. Doesn't mean they're not looking at guys through pens, and at least getting that initial feel. Hey, does that kid's arm work? Does he look like an athlete? Does he move like a ball player? These are the initial kind of gut reactions that college coaches get from, even if it's 30 seconds of video. They know they're pros. They've been doing this a long time. The college coaches, their job is their number one job requirement is to be able to identify what a player looks like. So they can tell. They can tell. There's bad film out there, sure, but usually adequate film is going to give a coach enough of a nibble, enough of a taste that he can say, yeah, this kid's worth keeping in touch with or learning more about, which is the point. Cool, man. Well, when you talk to Keith Wall over at Valor, make sure you tell him I said hello. We'll make sure we tell him we spoke. Talking, contingency plans. One of the coolest parts about, not cool. I mean, I don't want to belittle what's going on. It sounds a little weird when I say coolest parts, but the strength and conditioning piece. I mean, has a player ever had more time in their life and during their high school years to focus on strength and conditioning than right now?
Sure. Yeah. And that's a great point. Normally we're smack dab in the middle of the spring season, and a lot of guys forego the strength stuff because they've got a lot of stuff going on. And, it's the spring has been kind of a wake up call. Like, well, this is, like you were just talking about, it's something that doesn't stop. It's something that you can continue to do. And, those guys at Push have done a really good job of providing at-home workouts. They rented out all their equipment to athletes to take, dumbbells, bars, all that stuff. So there's definitely some limitations, and you can't just have 30 guys in the gym at once. But at the same time, the kids that are dedicated and understand the importance of it, when we've talked to them, they've gotten a lot out of this time because they can focus on it. So
you know what, like some of these players may not be super sharp on day one. Whenever day one comes to us, from get putting the ball where they want to put the ball, or timing up that pitcher. It's almost like day one is going to feel like day one of spring training in some ways. But what should be absolutely true is there should be way less guys who have injuries. Those injuries should have been getting taken care of, right? Those little nagging tweaks, right? All that stuff should have time. Now, obviously, not the major stuff that takes 12 months to work through, but the little tweaky type of injury, we should have had time to clear that up. And additionally, there should be some gains made. There should be some gains made. We should see kids who are stronger and healthier whenever day one is. They might not be able to square up a pitch, but hopefully they're in tip top shape from a strength and conditioning standpoint. That's a little different than baseball shape, and we know that as far as the gameplay. But man, you could crush yourself just with some push-ups, some pull-ups, and some body weight squats.
Sure. Well, and the movement stuff, and that's a huge part of it. And so the guys that have been doing that stuff prior to the whole shutdown, they understand what those things are, and if you can just continue to move well or do the things that are helping you to move better, even if maybe you're not, putting on a ton of weight or able to push a lot of weight around because you just don't have it. But if
Yeah.
you're able to move better, that's going to help out when we get back to being able to do all the things we were doing before. So,
Do you? We're going to wrap this up in just a minute, but I want to ask the last couple questions here before we go, because I know you got another appointment coming up soon. Do you, just inside your business, do you see any? Are there going to be any changes, any tweaks to, the details of the business after this thing, that something you've learned or picked up? While you think about that, what made me think of this question was your strength and conditioning guy renting out equipment is amazing. He wouldn't have done that 6 weeks ago.
Right.
And that's a change that this thing forced him to consider and to do. Will there be anything like that within your business, or not really?
Well, I think, along those same lines, providing players, providing coaches with resources is probably the biggest thing. I think someone that could be stuck at home the last 2 months and know that they've got a resource to use, that those are the people that are making the gains that you're talking about. So I think we can always improve, and we're always looking for ways to improve, but we felt really good about, we have a lot of our drills, a lot of our processes up on YouTube, so if a kid is at home and he doesn't know what drill to do, he could scroll through the hitting playlist on our YouTube channel and go, oh yeah, 45 degrees, or, oh yeah, this drill, that drill, and get some value out of it rather than just throwing the ball on the tee and swinging. We trained some youth teams this winter, and we created a driveline track profile for each team, and programmed their practices like we would with our athletes. So, those coaches that were able to, that were taking the time to meet with their teams and try and get their kids to continue doing stuff, they had a resource to be able to base those things off of, as well as the things that they like and that they do with their kids. So, to answer your question, there's always more we can do, and it's kind of shed light on, hey, we need to continue to provide resources and ways that guys can get better without us. Especially looking forward, they say that there might be a second wave of this thing. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? So if we can plan on people being self-sufficient at any given time, that's gonna be a positive thing down the road.
So we've talked with past guests about a lot of the gizmos and gadgets and apps and different technologies out there, and one of the best takeaways is how much accountability it provides, because now that you know that player, if he's using that blast sensor, that kid, it took 100 swings today, right?
Right.
Right. And was it about his perfect swing, or was it about the fact that the kid was out there actually taking swings, right? So now there's that ability to track that. So speaking of track, I use that word kind of subconsciously, because I was going to ask you, can you, in 60 seconds or less, describe Driveline's track? That's TRAQ, by the way. That software, because that's something I'm unfamiliar with. I mean, I know it exists, but I don't really know what it is. So can you just talk about how you use it and sort of the high level, 30,000 foot view of that software? What is it, and anything else in a short amount of time?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's in short, it's a place to have all of our guys in one program, where we can put videos, we can put any sort of resource. We can track any data that we take, and then we can program what they're doing on a daily basis. So it's very, very user-friendly for the coach to go in and pull this drill, this drill, this drill, and pop it into this guy's day. And then when he logs on, there's what I'm doing today. In addition to the kids being able to see, oh, here's what my exit velocity was, or here's my hitting assessment report from Monday when I hit. So that software, we swear by it because it's just one central location. And I think if you talk to a lot of people that have signed on with those guys and are using Track, before they were doing it in 8 million different Google Sheets, and they're having to keep them updated. And if they're anything like me, those sheets were always changing, and you didn't know which was which, and which was the old one and which were the new ones. So, Track has just been awesome to create a profile for each guy, and there's your stuff.
So one piece of it is it allows coach to plan out that player's agenda for that day, right? So it might be, different drills, whether it's pitching or hitting or whatever. But then the back end is it's a sort of a place where you can drop in the measurables, where they can keep a running account of those statistics.
Right. Yeah. And I would say the programming piece, and putting drills with players on a day-to-day basis, that's the majority of what we use it for.
Okay.
But again, if we take a video of a guy and we want to pop it somewhere where they can see it, it's very easy to download it and upload it into Track, and it's just one place where our kids can see all of their stuff, whether it's the programming, the data, the video, an article that we read that we want to share with everybody.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's a great program, and we're really happy with it.
Cool. Yeah, that's a good endorsement. I'm gonna have to look into that a little more. I really haven't researched that at all. So I'm glad we talked on that, man. Well, listen, is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I think like Jordan's tweet said yesterday, and I'm glad you saw it and responded and we connected. It really is a time where it's an eye opener. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And what kind of value can we provide to kids? Through a tough time, through an unprecedented time. We feel really good about it. Obviously, we're learning every day and we're planning, but I think that's a testament to the staff that I've got around me, to the parents and kids that we have in our program that get it, that understand the right things to do. And for those of you listening, I hope that you've got those type of people, and communicating what your mission is to those people at this time, I think is the most important thing. What I've found that when you're very upfront about the realities, and what you're going to provide and what you're not going to provide and all those things, then people are usually on board and they roll with you. If you don't communicate well, then you might get those parents like you were talking about earlier that say, nah, we're out, we'll do something else. But if you can provide them with value and development and an atmosphere, kids just want to be together at this time.
Yeah.
So if you can provide that stuff at this time, I think you're going to be okay getting through this. So
yeah, well said, man. Well said. It's this is if anybody wants to connect with Ryan, we'll make sure we put all the links and everything in his Twitter and which is twitter.com/ it's at Ryan_Serena4. That's SERENA 4. And you got roguebaseballperformance.com. I'll put all that on the show notes, which will be over at playinschool.com/Serena. We'll have that there, man. I appreciate you coming on. If you would, we'll stop the recording there, but hang on for me for just another 2 seconds, will you, Ryan?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. I'm having so much fun bringing these shows to you each week. If you'd like to recommend a coach for the show, please don't hesitate to shoot me a note at rich@playinschool.com or DM me on Twitter at playinschool. Again, my name is Rich Prado. I'm the founder of Play in School. My goal is to continue to create products and services that add value to you, the travel ball coaches, your players, and their parents. Visit playinschool.com to see some of the ways we're doing that. Or better yet, let's set up a call. Until next time, thank you for listening to Travel Ball Talk.